everyone, Witch Hazel here. Thanks for joining me. So, have you ever had one of those moments when you get through a beautiful, epic, enlightened video and find out the camera turned off? Yeah, I wouldn't know what that's all about. Anywho, my topic for this video is actually death and dying. More specifically, midwifing death. This is a term that I happened across a few weeks ago. I had never heard of it before, although apparently I've heard from other people since then. There has been literature on this concept since about the 80s, and I can't remember the author's name who made it big. I'll have to ask and add that somewhere into the notes about the video. But what I came across at the library as I was looking for another book was this one, Midwifing Death. And this is by Leslie de la Madre. I'm probably butchering that. But I found this and I thought it was such a wonderful concept because I'm speaking from the perspective of a former nurse. I was an army nurse, and after that I worked in long-term care and home health for several years. And I always felt that I did not have the appropriate responses to death and dying. I was not behaving in the way that people expected me to, because I did not see death as a bad thing. Everyone around me, when a patient died, everyone was crying and upset. My perspective was, well, they're on to bigger and better things. Why should I be sad? And that does extend to some extent to my experience of death in my own family. Now granted, I am very lucky. My family is very long-lived. I've had very few deaths in my family, and fewer still of any really immediate family members. My grandmother passed away when I was 3 years old, so she was a huge force and factor in my life up until I was 3. But again, I was 3, so how much that impacted me, I'm not sure. The next obvious, or I guess meaningful death in my family, in my life, was that of my great-grandfather when I was about 11 years old. And he had been a staple in the house until I was about 9, going on 10. And then for the final year or so of his life, he had moved back to Germany, so I didn't see him. But again, we were close as you can be with a great-grandparent at the age of 10. And it was not something that was a terrible hurt or loss to me. More recently, my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, passed away. And that was a bit more difficult. But again, not to the extent that I was upset. But I mean just hurt, or I don't even know how to explain it, but something relating that pain of loss to my grandfather, to the fact that he wasn't there. It is unhappy, yes, but I knew what that last portion of his life was like. He was in a hospital. He hated hospitals. He was scared. He had had a couple of heart attacks, and you know what set them off was the hospital staff trying to put tubes down his nose. And so anyone coming near his face scared him, and that he was a shell of himself. That was not my grandfather. That was not the man that I knew. So his spirit needed to go on to better things. And I'm very happy that it did, because he would not have wanted to survive another 10 or more years. He was in his 80s. 10 or more years living that way. That was not his way. He needed to go on to where he could be what he needed to be. That's always been my view of death and dying. it's much harder for many people. So the concepts in this book I found to be wonderful because they look at death as just another part of life. They look at that transition into death in the same reverence and celebration that we view the transition of birth, coming from the unknown into this realm. We're happy about that. We are participatory in that. And not even as much as we should be, really. We've sterilized birth quite a lot as well. But we've done even more in relation to death, which I think is really harming our society, our Western society in general. So, some things I like about this book, and I guess I really should start to do book reviews, but the first portion of the book focuses more on views about death. It goes into it. There's a really good section on the Dark Mother, the goddess, the origins of life, and this kind of shadow land where our spirit comes from, the darkness that we can't see into, the mysterious, the mystery, and that mystery as mother. I really like that section. And then the rest of the book has themes about death, dying, and then actual kind of case studies or examples of how people incorporated that into the dying process of a loved one. So I think it's a really wonderful book. So if you get the chance, if you're interested in those things, take a look. Another one that I think will be very interesting, I haven't gotten to read it yet, but I picked it up the other day from the library. It's called Sacred Dying, and the author's last name is Anderson. Megory. I'm probably butchering that too. Megory Anderson. Here's what it looks like. And this as well has thoughts and ideas about death and dying, examples, and this one is specifically about creating rituals for embracing the end of life. So I think this will be a very good read as well. There's another one I was looking at on Amazon but didn't find it in the library, so I may have another one that I need to pick up in my research. But again, this is all very interesting to me as a former nurse, and an area of life, of profession maybe, that I think would be good for me to continue my studies in, because death is a difficult topic for many people to deal with, and it has never been that difficult for me to deal with. That may change in the future, I don't know, depending on whose death we're talking about, but for the moment, because of this, I think I have some small obligation to help others, if I can, with finding a way to actively and lovingly transition their loved one into the next realm. Along with that, I do have one other thing to mention on this topic, and that is a class I went to, a class that I found out about, again, at the same time that I was finding these books. And this was held at a little botanical shop down the way from me. It's at 6th and Corona in Denver. It's called Moondance Botanicals. They are wonderful. Small shop, but they have anything you could need or want by way of herbal bath and body goods. So it's a really fun shop. And they also have an amazing array of classes. Everything from fun stuff, gift making, they have one on herbal mead making, to more in-depth herbal study. Herbal apprenticeships, internships at the shop, they have it all. And one of the classes that they had was herbs and aromatherapy for midwifing death. And I thought, serendipity, I have to go to that. So I did, and it was a wonderful class. It was put on by Nancy Nero. She is a hospital chaplain here at, I believe it's Denver Health hospital chaplain. She was also a hospice chaplain in the past, and she had some wonderful insights on ways to use the senses to create a calming atmosphere for those who are dying. In our day and age, we have created such a fear around death and dying. We consider it unnatural, of all things, and we've sterilized it, and people are very afraid of dying when they get to that portion of life. They may have regrets, they may have fears, they may have any number of things that make it difficult for them to transition. And the one most important factor that they can have at this time is family, is love. Whoever is there for them. If they don't have family, a caretaker, a nurse, a hospice person, anyone, to show them love and caring and be with them for this transition. And ways that you can create a calming atmosphere include essential oils, aromas, incense, light therapy. You could do music, ambient music, touch, healing touch, massage. It does wonders for those transitioning. I knew this a little bit already as a nurse, but it was never really connected in my experience. The facilities I worked at, it was never connected to a means of facilitating a good transition into death. So to have this information now, even though it's a bit late in coming for me, I think this is absolutely wonderful. And I would really like to continue studying this a bit, because I do believe it is a very important topic for us to change our mindset about. We can mourn, we can be sad, we will always miss our loved ones. But it's not, in my opinion, it's not right to bind them to this sadness. Their spirit needs to go on to wherever you believe it goes to a heaven, to reincarnation, to back into the universe. We are constantly evolving, we're constantly changing energy, which is what we're made of. Energy does not just disappear. This human corporal form that we have is temporary. It's sad when it's gone, but what's inside of us is never gone. And that is the thing that we need to honor, the thing that we need to love and cherish, even when the body that we knew is gone. And that we can definitely do in many ways, some of which I'll be talking about in my additional videos for October. So, thank you very much for listening to me gab. I hope it was enjoyable for you. It was an extremely important topic, I think. Please let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.